I never imagined I'd witness someone try to take a hospital bed away from a man who had only hours left to live. My father was stretched out beneath humming machines, his breathing shallow, his voice barely more than a whisper. And yet this woman, a total stranger, stormed into his room and demanded that we move him so she could claim the bed for her minor procedure. The way she spoke, as if my dad's final moments were nothing but an inconvenience, sent a chill straight through me. What happened after that was so unbelievable that even the nurses were stunned. But it all began 3 weeks earlier, when my father's condition suddenly spiraled downhill. He'd been fighting cancer for 2 long years, but this time the doctors pulled me aside and quietly told me it was only a matter of days. We moved him to a calm, private room on the palliative care floor, room 412, a window overlooking a line of trees, so he could rest his eyes on something peaceful. My mother, my sister, and I took turns staying with him, so he was never alone. We brought his favorite blanket from home, set out a few family photos, and spent hours sitting beside him, holding his hand, sharing stories, tried to make his last days as gentle and loving as possible. That afternoon, I'd stepped out to grab coffee for everyone. When I returned, Ray's voices echoed down the hallway. As I got closer to room 412, I realized the loudest voice was coming from inside my dad's room. I walked in and stopped cold. A woman in her late 50s stood at the foot of my father's bed, perfectly styled blonde hair, an expensive designer purse hanging from her arm, pointing an accusing finger at my mom. She wore a blazer with an HOA president pin, an actual pin that read Sunridge Estates HOA president, like she was conducting official business. My mother looked terrified. My sister was already crying, and my father, confused, struggling, was trying to lift his head, breathing harder than he had all day. "You need to pack up and move him immediately," the woman snapped. "I have a scheduled procedure tomorrow morning, and the administrator promised me this exact room. It's the largest one on the floor, and I require space for my recovery team." My mom's voice trembled as she replied, "Ma'am, my husband is dying. This is palliative care. They can't move him." The woman, Karen, because of course her name was Karen, rolled her eyes without hesitation. "Everyone here is dying. That's not my problem. I've been on the waiting list for weeks, and I have connections on the hospital board. If you don't vacate by tonight, I'll have you removed." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I stepped forward. "Excuse me, who are you?" She turned toward me as if I were staff. "I'm Karen Whitmore, president of Sunridge Estates Homeowners Association and a platinum donor to this hospital. This room was reserved for me. Your situation is not my concern." My dad let out a small, painful sound, and Karen glanced at him the way someone might look at a broken piece of furniture. "Honestly, if he's that far gone, they should move him to a smaller room anyway. I need the space." Something inside me snapped. My sister was sobbing openly. My mom clutched my dad's hand so tightly her knuckles were white, and this woman stood there tapping her foot, waiting for us to wheel my dying father out like an unwanted guest. I told her to leave. She refused. She said she was calling administration. She pulled out her phone and began recording us, announcing that she needed evidence of our non-compliance. That was when the nurse who had been checking my dad's vitals earlier walked in. She took in the scene, and her expression hardened instantly. What Karen didn't know was that this nurse had been on her feet for 12 hours and had absolutely no patience left for entitled nonsense. And what none of us knew yet was why Karen was so fixated on this particular room and this specific bed. The nurse, her name tag read Maria, saw Karen filming my crying sister and my mother bent over my father, and something in her broke. She stepped directly between Karen and the bed, arms crossed. "Ma'am, you need to stop recording and leave this room right now." Karen smirked, lowering her phone just slightly. "I have every right to document this. These people are refusing to vacate a room that was promised to me by the hospital administrator himself. I'm a major donor." Maria didn't even blink. "This is palliative care. No one gets promised a dying patient's room. Turn off the camera and step outside, or I'm calling security." Karen laughed, actually laughed like this was all some ridiculous misunderstanding. "Do you know who I am?" I run the HOA for the most exclusive neighborhood in the county. I organize the hospital's annual gala. One call from me, and you'll be looking for a new job. That's when things got worse. Karen dialed a number on speakerphone right there in the room. A man answered, some assistant administrator, and she launched into a dramatic story, claiming we were squatting and causing a disturbance. My father's heart monitor began to beat faster. The stress was literally killing him. My mother begged Karen to stop, but Karen only spoke louder. The administrator sounded nervous. Mrs. Whitmore, I did mention the larger room might become available, but it needs to be available tonight. Karen cut him off. I have a knee arthroscopy at 7 a.m. I specifically requested room 412 because it has the adjustable therapeutic bed I need for recovery. My doctor signed off on it. Maria's eyes narrowed as she quietly pressed the call button for security while Karen continued ranting. Within minutes, 2 security guards arrived. But this is where everything went completely off the rails. Karen flashed some kind of donor VIP card, and one of the guards actually hesitated. She noticed immediately and pounced. See? Even security knows who pays the bills around here. Then she turned to us and said the sentence I'll never forget. Your father's been here long enough. It's time to let someone who still has a life to live use the proper facilities. My sister completely lost it, jumping to her feet and screaming at Karen to get out, calling her every name imaginable. Karen didn't even flinch. She just kept repeating that rules were rules and donations came with privileges. The guards looked at Maria, uncertain whose side to take. Maria said firmly, "This patient is end of life. No one is moving him. Escort this woman out." But Karen wasn't finished yet. She spun on her heel and stormed toward the nurse's station.